everyone, we are back with another episode of Tales from the Tavern, and look, I remembered to unmute my microphone this time. So, it's a win already. I'm super excited about the group we have here tonight. I'm going to let everybody go around and introduce themselves in just a minute. I do just want to point out the little, like, I don't know, what corner is it? In this corner over here. There's a cycle. There used to be one slide that had all of our shows on it, and I was like, you can't read that. So now there's a whole bunch of them that has all of our stuff on it, so you can see what all of our shows are for the week coming up. Anyway, I just wanted to share that with everybody, and I'm going to go around and have all of our guests introduce themselves and let us know who they are and where we can find them and all that good stuff. And Bat Duck, I'm going to start with you.
Wow, starting with me.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm Bat Duck. I am a variety streamer at Twitch, Bat Duck TW. And yeah, as other lesser known things is I do the sound editing for the VOD for the podcast of this show.
It's true.
So I'm kind of one of those background guys that likes to stay hidden. So yeah, that's me.
Well, thanks for coming on. I super appreciate you coming and hanging out tonight, because I know that Bat Duck likes TTRPGs. I've played with him before, and we always have a good time when we talk about them. So thanks so much. And next up we have Amanda.
Hi, I'm Amanda. I'm a co-founder of this awesome channel that we're currently on, Shared Experience, with the lovely Luna. I play Shula Dawnflower on our Wednesday night Pathfinder show, 50 Shades of Crimson, also with lovely Luna. I play a D&D Tomb of Annihilation campaign with the Dice Tyrants that has actually recently switched over from a live stream to podcast form, so stay tuned for updates on that if you follow Dice Tyrants. Yeah, I'm just a big TTRPG lover. I do some guest spots and charity work in the TTRPG sphere, and I also started DMing last year, which was really exciting. And yeah, and I also paint minis, but to be completely honest, I haven't painted in a few months now, because I've kind of replaced it temporarily with my obsession with baking and cooking. So yeah.
But she's super talented at it. I mean, she's probably super talented at the baking and cooking too. I don't know. But she's a talented.
Well, I haven't been doing it quite as long, but it's exciting. It's like painting minis where like there's a learning curve, and I like learning how to just get better at it every time. So, but yeah, that's what I've been doing.
As Chet says, painting minis is so cool, but baking and cooking is also cool. So well, I'm glad you're coming on to hang out with me on this tonight, because usually we're only goofing off in character. Now we can goof off out of character.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. And next up, we've got three people who you have seen around the interwebs, I'm sure, and I'm really excited to have them all on the channel. So, Orc, we're going to go to you next.
Hey, I'm Orc, your friendly TPRPG Twitter troll. I kind of roam around and spread good vibes with everyone. Other than that, I have my own homebrew world that I've been working on over on World Anvil. I stream occasionally when my child allows me to. Other than that, I'm a forever DM and open to pretty much any sort of question that people have.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. I was saying that Orc is a frequenter in chat here, so it's nice to actually have him on the stream this time. I'm really excited to have you here. And I'm probably going to pronounce the A wrong again. Galway. Oop.
There we go.
There we go.
Rhymes with hallway for some reason.
Okay, I always want to do that. It's probably like the New England thing, so.
Yeah, it makes sense. Hey everybody, I'm the programming director and one of the founders of Helpful Goat Gaming, a small independent game design and game content creation community. I play and DM. I've been directly involved in playing TTRPGs for 6-7 years, something like that, and I've been reading TTRPG books in bookstores since I was like 8, so around the space for a long time. Yeah, really excited to get to chat with everybody, hear more about experiences with TTRPGs and what we all think about them.
Yeah, awesome. And last but definitely not least, we have Tempest.
Hi, I'm Morgan, aka Tempest. I stream on the channel Tempest TT Games, and I do live world building and board game and TTRPG content, design content. Sorry. My whole shtick is that I basically am reinventing the wheel for no reason other than I think it's fun. And I'm exploring a lot of stuff from a standpoint of not knowing what I'm doing. And I also I work with some heavy subjects. The setting that I am designing right now, that I would like to turn into an TTRPG, is mainly based on the theme of processing trauma. All of that is really interesting to me. Yeah, other than that, I've been playing in DM for about 3.5 years. I'm one of those Zennials who probably should have been playing from a much younger age than I actually managed to get started. I think I played one game with 3.5 back in the day, but that's kind of... Yeah, I'm actually pretty new to the whole scene, but really digging into it. I've kind of pivoted from writing, which is what I used to do before I got ill a few years ago.
Well, I'm really excited to have you here. I love the idea of using games as a way to process trauma and that sort of thing. My background is social work. My professional background is social work. And I did a couple of years working in schools, doing, trauma-informed schools and stuff like that. So I love it. I love it. Like, I am super passionate about that stuff as well. So it's always nice to see people doing it. Yeah. Well, thank you all, like I said, for coming to hang out tonight, and thank you all, chat, for being here and wanting to talk with all of us. So, if this is your first time here for Tales from the Tavern, basically our entire conversation centers on questions from you guys. So feel free to drop your questions right in chat. We have a moderator who will get those to me, and we will discuss them as time allows. I do want to let you know that we have a channel point redemption. You can use up to not you each, but a total of 3 can be used every night. That is called Ask My Question Next, and that will bump your question right up to the next question in the queue. So if you have a really burning question, you can definitely do that. So feel free, like I said, just start dropping your questions in chat, and I will jump in with the first question, and it's a fairly easy one, but it always divides the room. So I want to see what people have to say tonight. And I have a feeling that Bat Duck and Manda probably know what I'm going to ask. Do your dice have to match?
No.
It's such a good question. I also say no, but for no reason.
I think you can have your favorite set of matching dice, and then you can have your garbage can of random dice that you just like to show off to people.
I'm nodding because I agree that's a thing that people do, but not me. No, they have to match hardcore. I even bought specifically a set of casino D6s to red ones to match my red polyhedrals. And then I even made myself a set of dice bags so that I can keep track of what sets go where. And then I test all of my dice for balance. And the ones that fail go into my giant bin of dice that I just sort of I put on a shelf in my lounge for decoration.
I love it.
Yeah, I'm very, very particular about my dice. I just wish that I could afford really fancy ones, because I just have a bunch of really cheap dice at the moment.
I was gonna say there's the real rub of it all, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think all the dice sets that I have, my polyhedral sets, are all in the same sort of colorways. I like playing with red, black, and silver. Mm-hmm. So I don't, when I go to grab 3d6 or something, it doesn't have to all be the same set, but my colorways are close enough that it's pretty close anyway.
Yeah, I'm a red, green, and black. Yeah, I get you.
I follow.
Orc, you want to go?
Yeah, go ahead.
Luna?
Oh, for dice, I have
Yeah.
everything. I just bought some dice that have little soot sprites. If you ever saw Totoro or
I saw those
Yes!
for sale. Those
Yeah.
are so
Oh.
cute.
yeah, I saw those. I scooped them up right away, and then I got my wife some dice that have little like fall leaves on the inside of them. Dice with skulls on the inside.
Do I have it here?
I'm
Got my
loving the new trend.
EM
of,
dice
like,
that roll great
things
against
and-
players.
Yeah.
So my answer is they must match, but only for certain games. For D&D, I couldn't care less if they match, but I see myself as a primary player of kind of a low popularity game called Legend of the Five Rings, and it rolls a D10 system, or at least used to, and I have here one of the D10s. I don't know if you can see that on screen. It's not going to focus, is it? No, it's not. But that's a dragon mon that's in the center where the zero is at. Zero? Yeah, zero. So I have 10 of these because it works on a exploding D10 system. So if you get a 10 on one of your dice, you get to keep that, and you get to roll again, and you get to add that amount to your total. So I have 3 sets. One of them, because there's a running joke of blood magic users, so it's red, and I have a black set for Shadowlands, which is the evil faction of the universe, of the story universe. But those sets must match. But anything else, like your life counters or whatever else, I couldn't care.
I am very much all my dice have to match. Like, even if I'm using D6s for rolling, like, sneak attack damage, those D6s have to match. So, I have 4 full sets of just D6s. I have one of these little ones that has, like...
Oh, with the mini ones?
With the mini ones, yeah.
Yes, I love those.
Yep, so I've got, there's 2 of them right there. And then I have another... 9 matching right there, and I've got 2 more sets of 9 up above me. So yeah, they all have to match. And then I have I just took inventory of my dice the other day. I have 19 sets. Like, I haven't played in person in like 2 years, or at least a year and a half, and my number of actual dice has gone up over the last 2 years. So I'm like, this is not
Imagine that.
how it's supposed to work. Well, then I could justify it because I'm like, well, this set was a charity set for Jasper's game day, so I had to get
You
those.
would have bought the dice anyway, Luna.
But still, well, and this set was a gift, so I didn't actually buy those.
There was a time that I've known Luna where she would buy. She seemed to have bought a dice set like every week.
Yeah. Maybe.
And if she wasn't buying one, she was definitely thinking about it.
I mean, I will say when I would like get my friends into D&D or other TTRPGs, they'd be like, "Oh, okay, yeah, this is kind of fun." Then we'd go to a game store and be like, "By the way, this wall of dice that you've never looked at before, that's what these exist for." And they're like, "Oh, I like this."
Yeah,
I
Sparkles
remember
usually
a
get a
day
lot of
where
people.
I used to go into game stores just to look at the wall of dice. But nowadays, Twitter is my wall of dice. Have you all seen the glass resin dice that someone made with the blue and pink swirls in it? And they were saying they're not even selling it because it's just like test dice, so their friends all get to play with them, but no one else. And here it is. You can look at it and be jealous.
Sounds nice.
They're magnificent. Oh my goodness.
I love it. Pyrotex is saying, Luna sends me links to dice all the time. When I'm on Etsy, it only shows me dice for my recommendations. Hashtag sorry, not sorry, people.
Ooh, what I'm really excited about, there's a seller on Etsy who does ceramic dice.
Ooh.
And I would love to get a set, but they're in the US. I'm actually in the UK. Don't let the accent fool you. And just the shipping would be outrageous on top of the cost of them. But they are amazing. I love ceramic anything.
That's awesome.
One of these days,
So-
I would love to drop and get a set of artisan dice, but I might have to take out another house loan for those.
Yeah, seriously.
Oh, I made the mistake of looking at dice from Level Up Dice when I was at PAX East before the world stopped turning, and I almost bought them, and I was ready to pull out my wallet, and then I had this good sense to say, oh, by the way, how much are those? And they were like, they're $175, and I was like, see you later, bye.
That's awesome, bud.
Yeah.
Do they always roll the number that you want?
If they did, I would have bought them.
Okay, but I just spent 30 quid, and that's about $50 on a single D20 on Kickstarter, and you might know the one I'm talking about, Pixels.
Yes,
Yes.
very cool.
I am so excited
Oh.
for them. So excited.
I wanted to
Bluetooth
back the
dice.
whole darn set because I just think those are so
Yes.
cool, but
100%.
$200 for a set of dice, I just can't bring myself to do it.
Oh, no. Yeah. No, I couldn't. Even 30 felt like really racy.
Look at mortgage
So-
bill for month. Look at Pixels back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Well, I'm going to dive into some of the questions that we've started to get from chat. Floop, I really like your question, so I'm going to go ahead and ask it. So one of the things that if you've been in our chat here, you may have noticed we have affinity for marshmallow fights. So Floop would like to know, what is the best size marshmallow? Jumbo, mini, or somewhere in between?
Jumbo, all the way. I just have to say that. I just like either just putting them all in my mouth or just splitting them in half and then getting the real nice inside. I don't know, but I just love the jumbo ones.
There you go.
Definitely jumbo. You have more surface area to char and burn.
True.
Yeah. One of my favorite games in youth group at church was that one where you shove all the marshmallows in
Chubby
your mouth.
Bunny.
And you
Yeah.
try to, you try to say Chubby Bunny. I was really good at that game. So
That's-
yeah, I like the big ones.
All right. Well, I'm glad we
Yes.
established this. Oh, Batek, did you have something to add?
Yeah. My answer is yes. Definitely for roasting marshmallows, you want the jumbo ones because there's no way in heck you're gonna put one of those mini ones on a stick and roast those. If you do, I'd like a video. But I like the mini ones if you're trying to melt them into hot cocoa because it melts faster because it's smaller.
Yeah.
True.
So yes.
Or if you're making Rice Krispies, you want the small ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those melt easier.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
All marshmallows are wonderful.
It's true. It's true. If you're a marshmallow manufacturer, we would love to have you sponsor us. So the reason that marshmallows are a thing here is because I keep these on my desk, and they are actually not meant for marshmallows, but that's what I use them for. I picked these up at PAX East. They're actually dice catapults. I use them for mini marshmallows at the table. So I have been known to fling mini marshmallows at my D&D table, namely at the DM. So that's where that all got started. So that's why marshmallows are now a thing.
I feel like as a DM, I would take that because I'm just getting snacks. That-
Right, exactly.
I'm going to try to learn what behavior prompts you to launch marshmallows at me. Be like, this, okay, feeling a little peckish. Let's do that. Catch.
Right. Yeah, so it's I like those. Now I keep them sitting right here just in case I ever need them for any particular reason. All right, so let's see. Sam Wise the Pooh would like to know, something I've struggled with before is getting a committed group of players together. What suggestions do you have for getting a group together that lasts past the first session?
Patience.
Friendship. If you're a solid core group of friends, then usually you'll be able to go through all the necessary stuff of playing to be together for a long time. If you're a group of randos from like a local game store,
Yeah.
you're probably going to dip in and out.
If you expect to start playing tomorrow, then you're going to run into that issue. If you can wait until you find like 3 or 4 people that you really get on with, then, you're gold.
I kind of have to echo the things that I've worked with. Yeah, everyone here said some of them. But one thing in the chat that's worth noting, specialized snacks. If you can lay out good snacks, you're going to get people to come back for at least one more week, and then it's a habit. The thing I will say that has been most effective for me, like, I think, in the history of ever is stream the thing. Suddenly everyone's like, okay, fine, yeah, I guess I have to show up because it's going on the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, like for shared experience, one thing that's worked really well for our shows is we do auditions. And if you're not planning on streaming anything, you know, you don't have to necessarily call them auditions or anything. But, you know, me and Luna and Atomic Zero get together and we lay out, okay, this is the parameters for, like, you know, and the expectations for a cast member, both for this particular show and for just the kind of people that we would want to play with or have a part of our community. And we make sure we have all of those ideas set out ahead of time. So then when people, you know, would be interested in playing, then they would be able to understand, and I feel like that would kind of like promote more commitment in a way, because everyone's on the same page, and I feel like we've had good success. And I know that's for streaming, but I've also kind of used those same kind of mechanics like when I started my home game that I DM and stuff like that. So I think just kind of getting all of that out there in the beginning, you'll get a bunch of people on the same page, and it'll just work itself out, hopefully.
Yeah. I would add that I've basically not had to even look at Roll20's LFG since I started finding communities on Discord. And just talking to people who love TTRPGs, and finding out who wants to play the kind of things that I like to play and who I just like chatting with, and then trying to get those people into games with me.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
One other note from a DMing perspective, I always send my players questions for like their character, like, hey, what's a short-term goal, what's a long-term goal, and it helps avoid that kind of loot goblin just dropping into it, but also I think it helps with investment of just, oh yeah, I want to see how that plays out, how do I get to that goal.
I think the other thing too is session zeros are super important. Make sure that everybody's on the same page before you even start playing, both about the commitment and how often you're going to play, what is involved in actually playing. Does that mean we're all going to come and cosplay every week, or does that mean like, hey, you're in charge of dinner once a month, or that sort of thing. And then also making sure that you're all comfortable with whatever the campaign, obviously the DM doesn't have to be like, and in episode 4, we're going to do this, but whatever the overall premise is, because, you want to make sure that it's you're not going to hit on something that's going to make people feel uncomfortable. Any other thoughts?
I agree with everything.
Time zones help too, don't they, Bat Duck?
No, they don't. So one of the
Muted. Never mind.
what I'll make sure you go let you go next. So we played one shot that turned into a 3-shot with Luna and some other people that lived in the UK and beyond, and that was, what was it, a Saturday session?
No, we did it on Sundays, I think, because it
that's
conflicted
right.
with your schedule.
Yeah, it was a Sunday session, and it was at a late night hour for the UK people, because I'm exactly 11 hours time difference. So my time now is probably like 3 a.m. for them, or something
Tempest,
like
what
that.
time is it in the UK right now?
No, 1 a.m.
1:30.
Yeah.
1:30. Yeah. So I was waking up at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning to make sure that they could be up and participate in the game at a decent hour for them too. So, I don't know about you, but 7 is a little rough for me.
It's great for me. It was
Sunday.
like 3 in the afternoon. It was perfect.
So that was my thing. Time zones are hard anyway. I'm a lost cause for that.
Yeah.
Okay, Tempest, go.
Especially that 2 weeks between time changes in the US and the UK.
Yes.
That really bends
oh
my brain.
Oh my gosh, yes.
The only thing I was going to say really quickly was, say if you're in a group already that's not super cohesive, one of the biggest tips I would have is to build up the courage and the confidence to talk to your players when they're causing problems. And if someone needs to be kicked out, to notice that early on, because that you can lose players that you want if you don't have the courage to prune the group, as it were.
Yeah, that makes sense. That I'm gonna use my discretion, and I'm actually gonna bump up this question because it ties into what you were just saying. Roll for Chaos, RF Chaos in chat said, if heaven forbid you had a player that was just really not working out, how would you handle that? Also, has that ever happened before?
Yeah,
Yep.
I've actually been a part of 2 different things where that situation happened, and I wasn't running them, but it was, it can be very difficult and touchy, because especially if you're playing with someone that you consider a friend or even just an acquaintance or a colleague, you don't want to hurt their feelings, but again, that goes back to laying out the expectations of everybody right at the beginning, because then you can say, okay, well, this expectation was that, you're on time, or that you're not flaky, or like whatever the case may be. And if they can't hold up their end of the bargain, then, then you can kind of reference that and say, okay, well, maybe this just isn't working out.
I think that for me, yeah, obviously that session zeros are worth their weight in platinum, but it's also the I like to try to talk to that person and see. I haven't ever had to actually kick someone from a game for things like this, but just compassionate curiosity around, hey, what's going on? I've played with lots of people, including myself, who have chronic health conditions. I'm like, all right, if it's this, I get that. Let's have that be an expectation of this game. We're gonna try to hit it every week or every couple of weeks, and if we can't, we feel that, we understand that, we check back in regularly. Versus, I think, versus the like, hey, let's all be gently curious when everybody's at the table, try to stay engaged, etc. And usually, again, just being like, what's up? I've had players who just needed, a fidget something. It actually helps them focus if they're looking at something else. I'm like, cool. If I know that that's where you're coming from and you're still showing up, I'm good with that. Let's just make sure we're all at the same understanding of what we're doing at the table, virtual or real.
Yeah, I almost quit a game over another player. I wasn't the DM, but it was stressing me out so much. He was actually triggering my CPTSD. And he just had one of those like low-key abusive personalities that he was giving us the whole time. And I tried very gently, trying to draw boundaries with him, and he was just not getting it. And then this went on for months, and finally I had words with the DM, who is one of my best friends, actually, which made it super hard. And I said, I think I need to leave this game. I'm not sure how much of it is me and my CPTSD and how much of it is that he's a problem. And we had we talked about it. We tried to, he spoke with the whole group, which I think was a good way of escalating it. So it went from me by myself, very quietly trying to draw some boundaries. And when that didn't work, then I spoke to the DM, and then the DM took it to the group as a whole and said, I think we need to work on some things to make this game run a little bit smoother. And we all talked and we agreed on some techniques that we could use to be a little bit more cohesive, for things to go the way that we wanted them to go. And then when that still didn't improve the situation, and other people had agreed that this player was not really working very well, we were this close to kicking him out of the game, and we got super lucky, and he had to leave for reasons for having to do with work and the pandemic and stuff. And I mean, he was still working. I don't mean he was like got homeless and couldn't afford the internet or anything. I'm not saying that was lucky for us. I want he just work stuff relating to the pandemic got in the way, and he had to leave. And I suspect that was partly him realizing for himself that things weren't going very well. But yeah, that sort of escalation to me is it makes me feel safer. Just because of my issues with like CPTSD, I have a hard time judging what the right moves are, and talking to other people as well, and saying, "Hey, am I nuts? Is this just me?"
Yeah, I think it's really hard. I sat at a table a while ago where we had a player who we didn't ask to leave the game, but definitely was a concern for the people at the table. And it was more so because there was a lot of metagaming knowledge and things like that. So it wasn't even like the person was intentionally trying to be a jerk, like it was just that's my kid's arm reaching in from the
extra arm
edge.
was
Yes.
very good.
I'm live, right? What would you like? Okay, well, I'll do it later. So that was a challenge, and so it really just came down to the DM having to have a conversation with this person and kind of leaving it up to the person to say, like, yes, I can get control of this, or no, I this is something that this is just how I play, and so it was a challenge, and it did get better, for a while, and then the game ended up ending anyway, so it worked out. But yeah, it was a challenge for a while for a lot of us. All right, let's see. Strangely Word would like to know, how do you do effective world building? Or, if you're a player, what makes a homebrew world immersive for you?
I'm really interested in the second half of that question.
I know for myself, when it comes to world building, I've tried different techniques over the years where I would draw a huge map and then kind of work, different areas, try forming states and mountain ranges. I found for me the best is to start with one location, start with a town, and then kind of grow out from there. Establish your political boundaries, kingdom boundaries, your different types of terrain. Or you can just start with one small area and let the party build the world as they explore it. So there's a lot of different ways that you can attack world building. There's really no right or wrong way.
Lots of different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I started mine with a theme. I knew that I wanted to work with processing trauma as a theme, and then I did exactly what you said. I picked a single village, and I worked my way out from there. And then eventually, what I discovered, and is one of a tool that I use every time that I world build now, is something called a campaign Bible that was written by the folks from the podcast DM of None. Mm-hmm. It's based on the concept of a show Bible from television, what you would have to work between television writers in order to make your writing more cohesive. It's excellent. It gives me basically a step-by-step set of things to try and sort of fill in, basically just to make the world playable, because that's I'm still at the point where I'm trying to make the world playable, and the sad thing is I've been working on it for like 3 years now. I still don't think it's playable. Obviously, I think what tool you use depends on what your situation is and what kind of game, what your deadlines are, what kind of game you're trying to run. the thing I'm really interested in right now that I'd like to start using is there are so many world building games out there right now that you can actually take those games and play them with your players in order to create your own homebrew that everyone has a part in. And to me, that is an amazing way of actually bringing your players in and having them be invested in the world, is have them having actually created it.
Yeah, that's great. As a player, because I've never created homebrew, that's a great idea.
You can actually see a really great example of this in action, and I'm gonna brag on these people because I brag on them all the time. They're amazing. It's a group called Indoor Recess.
I like the name alone.
Yeah. They stream 5e on it's usually either on Roll20 or it's on D&D's channel. And they just started a new game that's entirely homebrew, and they started it by playing Companion's Tale and, I'm sorry, did you say Street Magic? And it was
actual Street Magic?
No, the game is literally called.
Oh, okay, it's called.
Magic.
Okay.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd be like, that's cool too, but
I'm sorry. Did you say Street Magic is a city builder that is somewhere between Microscope and The Quiet Year. It takes a lot from both of those two games. And the other one, Companion's Tale, is a lot like The Quiet Year, but it's actually it's a board game. It has cards, and you can't buy a PDF. You can play it on Roll20 now, but if you're going to buy the physical game, you have to buy it. It comes in a box like a board game.
Interesting.
I think for mine, I think with the question of world building, there's often also, do you mean literally the geographic structures, which some of this has gone to, or do you mean kind of bigger narrative and force, the setting, etc.? For me, I come from more of a writing background. Different DMs that I played with have more of a film background or more of an acting background, so I think all of those can inform it. But for me, I like to ensure that my world has central questions, central power structures, central sort of interactive elements of that. And one of the things that I like is having the world have a life beyond the party. The party should be the heroes of their stories, but I think that it's one of the things that, for me, helps me as a player, and so I try to do it as a GM, is knowing that side quest, do you want to take that or not? That's going to have an impact. This isn't just, oh, here's some more coin or here's a piece of loot. It's like, no, this faction is going to feel differently about you, and they're going to be in a different place in the world. Do you want that or not? And I also like very much mystery and sort of low-key, sometimes high-key horror vibes. So sort of setting up those elements within the world is really big for me.
I have a quick question before I answer or not answer. Homebrew, is that just for the storyline itself, or is it like the whole geographical map of the relative area, or one or both of those items? As long as something's not effective canon to some storyline, is that anything other
I've heard
than that
of it
is
as being
homebrew?
both. I know people who have homebrewed entire, pantheons of gods and lore and, terrain and cities and everything.
Okay.
And then I've known other people who will take, like the city, like our 50 Shades of Crimson stream is a great example of that. Like, we're doing an adventure path, but there's a lot of homebrew thrown into it, which is the setting already exists, but we're adding in extra story stuff.
Because in homebrew, in the sense of the locations are canon locations, but the story and the characters in the story, even the main characters, the main NPCs and stuff, are all non-canon created. So yeah, as far as that goes, I think if the the whole relative overall mission is very engaging, then the homebrew world is amazing. If it's well done, well written, well thought out, it's awesome. I don't think I've been in one where it's not. I may have attempted to do one where it wasn't, but yeah, because the one that I was in, the eventual title of that campaign was The Fallen Heroes, and it was we lost. Spoiler alert, we lost. But it was a very, very like, we thought we were doing well, like we thought we got it, and then when the end was revealed to us and we started piecing everything together, we actually ended up killing the person we were supposed to protect, which really sucked. But it was a really good story. It did really well.
That's wild.
So yeah, if it's written well, then yeah, if the plan is good, then yeah, I think it'll be a very good homebrew. If not, then it's hard to say.
All right. Well, let's see. We've got a few other questions, and we've got a little bit of time before we head to our break. So let's see. The next one that we have also comes from Strangely Word, and the question is, what is your least favorite type of character, NPC or PC, to play, and why?
The one that has to use words well.
I don't know if I have a least favorite. I have one that causes me a lot of trouble, and that's a face character, because I could go off on one. I can talk way too much. I can just not stop. And I've found that if I'm playing a face character, I'm running into the issue of talking over other players a lot. So lately I've been trying on playing one that isn't, to get a better balance.
I think one thing that I learned as a DM that I maybe don't like to do as far as NPC, because I think for just a player character, I like all the PCs that I do. I haven't been forced into any parameters that I haven't liked yet. But as an NPC, I feel really, or as a DM, when I'm doing NPC stuff, I feel bad when I know that the NPC is like going to backstab the players and is like bold-faced lying and they don't know it and like just wants to kill them and is using them. And I'm like, I don't know. I have such a big heart that I actually feel bad about this like fake person that's in this fake world that's messing with my friends. So maybe that one, but I wouldn't say it's like super bad feeling.
Yeah, I think going off of that, like DMing wise with NPCs, I have a really hard time, and this would also be with my PCs. I've just never made one this way, of like someone who is consistently mean. Like, it isn't even the evil. I can kind of get around the like, oh yeah, I'm tricking the party and I'm okay with that on the NPC side, but I'm like, I don't want to inhabit the headspace of being really unpleasant to people for a 4-hour stretch or something. I'm like, nah, that doesn't sound fun.
Yeah, I don't have a least favorite class to play. I mean, I've been a DM for 20 plus years, so I kind of had to play all roles. When I was younger, I was forced to play a cleric since no one else wanted to. And that, I was like, if I'm going to play a cleric, I'm going full bore with it. I'm going super religious. I am going to convert the party. And it ended up being one of my favorite characters because I did convert the entire party to my religion.
I'm going to convert the party.
Do you know what? You just explained to me what my character that I hate to play is a religious character.
See, I love it because, like, all right, personally, I'm not religious at all, but I love playing a super religious character because there is that, you can admire someone who has that faith that can move mountains. And in 3E, it was real easy because there was I think it was Aspect of God or whatever the spell was called, and it was like, I'm going to cast this spell. You all get these little bonuses, but if you believe in my God, you get these bonuses. So everyone was quick to convert. We had morning prayer and did the whole thing.
Yeah. I was really religious when I was a kid, and I turned out to be both gay and trans, and that didn't really go well for me. So when it comes to religion, it's definitely a trigger for me. So I actually it's on my lines of veils. It's one of my veils, basically, to say I can't handle very much religion in my stuff. So, and I once played an OD&D or BD&D or original D&D game, Keep on the Borderlands with a friend, and I rolled a character that could only have been a cleric, and that was my first experience actually playing one, and I basically wrote the most tolerable possible cleric on the planet, who was like a cleric of this really old god that I made up. And basically all they had to do as a devotee of this god was to just walk around, wander the world in poverty. And so there was no like evangelism involved or anything like that. And that was vaguely tolerable, but anytime I had to cast a spell, it got super weird and I wasn't comfortable with it. But that's my personal stuff.
I somehow, inevitably, always end up making characters that are smarter than I actually am. And so I'll be looking at their intelligence and I'm like, nope, this is going to end real badly for me, because like my character should know this information, but I can't figure it out. And that's a problem.
To be honest, the underdogs are always the best characters.
Yeah.
They really are.
Mm-hmm.
I think the ones that I've disliked other people playing most are the ones who are actually good at whatever it is they do.
I hate Scorpion Clan. I love playing them, but I hate them. It's a group of people in that Legend of the Five Rings game who are just all about deceit and lies and everything like that. But you know what their actual purpose in that world is? They're to provide they provide the loyalty aspect to the throne. So, but it's a provide the loyalty by any means necessary.
Interesting.
Scorpion Clan has some of the best combat techniques.
Depends.
At least in the third edition version.
Yeah, I tend to favor dual wielding because I just think it's cool. So I tend towards the Dragon Clan myself, and I also tend to think a long time. So that's also the Dragon Clan thing. But anyway, beyond that, yeah, those people are evil.
What about a type of character that you actually really enjoy? This is a general question, not just for Batuk.
I guess like I like to play a character that's somehow different than me. I don't know. I like on 50 Shades of Crimson, Shula is like really cute and innocent and like naive, and I guess I would say I am not. And so I really like just doing like a juxtaposition of different aspects of my personality, though I do find that the aspects of my personality do come out anyway, but I do like to try to push different feelings and thought processes.
So I'm gonna cut in right here real quick. I start laughing when Manda mentions Shula's innocence and naivete, because there was this episode where she found these very risque letters and they were describing things to each other between
love letters.
Yes, very risque love letters. And she's reading through the letters and she turns to the party and goes, "Do you guys want to know what people do when they're naked?" And we were all like, "Nope."
We good, thanks though.
Yeah. But it was just like, it was so funny because like you played it so well and it was just so stinking funny. So oh yes, and the shopkeep who tried to sell her a ring of protection.
Ah.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, it's just weird. I just don't. Well, Shula doesn't, have any concept of that, but
Yeah.
obviously I do.
So is it character types or a particular character in specific?
I would say character types, but if you have a specific character.
Character types, I can almost play any class. Again, disregard courtier, bard, or anybody that talks. A common theme among those classes or whatever I play is that character is very prepared for just about anything to be thrown at him. So I've been known to play an elven wizard, specifically elven, for I think D&D 3.5 or something. And I would forego the familiar, because the cost of familiar I would use to pick up a longbow, because you have proficiency with longbow as elves, and you only had X amount of spell slots. So I figured, we're going to enter combat. I'm going to run out of spells. Magic Missile only does so much damage. I have these arrows. I'll just shoot at them all day. And then I'll pick up spells like other spells like Mage Armor or Shield or something like that. That lasts longer than, one round.
It's actually really clever.
The more and more I talk about my playstyle and the kind of games I play, the more I realize I'm kind of harping on a theme. But I like to play the characters that focused on an aspect of myself that I like to work on.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm trying to be more social, or if I just want to explore my otherness, that was one of my first characters. I made a character who was a little bit fey in a low magic grimdark world. Then my cleric was a character that I designed that was happy about everything. That thought everything was going to work out fine. Was just the most cheerful, pleasant person who never acknowledged anything bad, because that is the absolute opposite of me. And I had great fun with that. And then a newer character that I was playing in my Pathfinder game is a nonverbal character, which I find really interesting. And they are a witch with a raven familiar that speaks for them when necessary.
Oh, that's cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
I think I'd strongly echo that. I like to build characters that have something of me in them, whether that's something I want to work on developing more or something I'm just kind of trying to think about. And I'd say I like building my characters to either subvert a trope or a pretty standard trope in something, or to provide sort of a contrast in, say, their attributes versus what you might expect, because I think it's just a lot of fun to get to play that out. One of my favorite characters that I've played on a stream was a 2-foot-tall kobold monk who was perpetually drunk, and just essentially I'm like, look, if I ever KO someone and you ask me to describe what it looks like a Shoryuken from Street Fighter, because he's 2 feet tall. He has to jump to hit anyone. But just things like that. My main character for our long form campaign is playing a lot with this idea of what does it look like to care for others and care for yourself, and being a healer in more ways than just, oh hey, you have more HP now, but what does that mean?
Interesting.
I love playing loud, semi-annoying, almost cocky characters. Like my favorite, I based him off of Zorro and kind of like Tasselhoff Burfoot. So he was a halfling. He ended up being, I think he was 7 or 8 different classes in 3rd edition. And all he did was he tumbled around the battlefield, stabbed, poked, swiped at everything, tried to swoon all the women. And he was just so much fun to play. And that has kind of, it comes out in all my characters where I'm like, I'm going to be a somber fighter who's grim. He has a horrible backstory. And then next thing I know, he's joking around and trying to be charming. And I'm like, damn it, I was so close.
Almost. I think, speaking of characters, so a lot of my characters tend to be fairly, like, I wouldn't necessarily call them happy-go-lucky, but, like, fairly upbeat characters. But I think my favorite one that I did, one of my favorite ones that I did was a long time ago. So my daughter, whose, like, face you saw and arm you saw a few minutes ago, at the time that she was, like, 2, I was playing a game. I made a Kender rogue. And everything that my Kender rogue did was based on stuff my daughter did the week prior. So, like, if she did it during that week, it happened in our game, like, you know, and it was just, like, the most fitting scenario because, you know, Kenders are known for finding things and, you know, stuff like that. So it was very much along the lines of getting to be a 2-year-old again. So I had a lot of fun with that, you know, like.
Nice.
I also may or may not have tied up a party member over a flame trap, but, you know, that is.
You had reasons. It's okay.
I did have reasons. I wanted to rob him blind.
Oh,
I think he would have seen everything you would have robbed him. You would have stole from him, though.
Mm-mm. He slept through the whole thing. The dice confirmed it.
I have. Oh dear.
So why did you tie him up if you stole everything from him when he was sleeping?
Because I didn't steal it until he was tied up. Because if he woke up, he wouldn't have been able to chase after me.
Okay.
There was logic there, man. All right. Any other thoughts on that before we move to a break? All right. Hearing nobody, we are going to take a quick break so everybody can get up and refill their drinks and stretch their legs and hashtag free the pee and all of that good stuff. So we will be back in like 5 to 10 minutes. So sit tight and we will see you very shortly. And we're back. Hope you all had a great break. Yeah, we're back to answer some more of your questions. So if you're just popping in and joining us from the break, feel free to drop your questions right in the chat, and we will answer them as soon as we get to them. Smith, you seem to have a cat problem. Uh-oh. I think I'll have to get more information about that after.
I was going to say that could cover a wide range of things.
Right, I know. Sam, I totally moved. Yup. All right. Well, I'm glad that you all are so riveted by this conversation that you stayed put just so you'd be here when we got back. So we're going to dive right back into to the questions. So There was a great question that came in. We had talked a little about session zeros earlier on, and so Gilbert PhD asked a question of laying out expectations and tone is super important, it seems. How do you all run your session zero?
I make sure I don't die.
That is important, yes.
While everyone else is figuring out their answer, I'll explain that. One of my friends was known to run, I believe it was a cyberpunk campaign, and as I'm told, either it's just the way he runs it, or it's in the book. It's in the actual book where you can make decisions as you're making your character, and you make the wrong decision, like, get involved with this gang, and then you want to get out, and they say no, and then they kill you for it. That's kind of one of the things that happens. Or you want to get an implant, and your body rejects the implant, but you can't get it out, so the implant, ends up poisoning you, and you die. So yeah, not dying in a session zero, that's kind of what I mean.
Okay,
so then. It's very grim, but it makes for if you get out of the session zero and actually get to the game, you're very connected with your character. And I've played in 2 of his campaigns, and you get a really strong connection with your character and the other NPCs, where you want to do the best for kind of everyone, or you want to kind of get the best result for everyone. And you're very committed to that versus I'll just write another character and it'll be nothing. So that's kind of the effect of that.
All right.
I think one of the things that I do and that we've implemented at Helpful Goat is using safety and consent tools right in the beginning. And I like to have a conversation with the players of, this is kind of what I'm feeling. Like I mentioned, I like doing mystery and horror elements in them, making sure everybody's okay with that, making sure that that's a thing that they want to engage with. And then I think the last thing, kind of to Bat Duck's point about getting really involved and engaged with that character, is I like asking, I think I mentioned this, little questions of what's a short-term goal for this person? Are they trying to get some coin? Are they trying to do something? What's a long-term goal? Do they want to end up being prime minister? Do they want to, because all of that, I think, in much of that same way, gets them in this headspace of, no, this is why I'm doing this. This is what I want to do, what I'm going for. And I really enjoy that, and I think it helps the players be like, okay, we're not touching these topics, we're being careful about this is why we're doing it, let's go.
I think to that point too, going into it, expecting that you can go into a session zero and know your own boundaries. I mean, you can't know everything that's going to be a trigger for you, but if you at least have a general idea of this topic is off limits for me, or this topic is not something that I wish to explore in the next 6 months or something like that, or this topic hits a little too close to home for me. I think making sure that not just your DM, but other players are aware of it. And then also being comfortable, as you're, and this is less so during the session zero, but as your game goes on, being able to step aside or, pull the DM aside after a game or during a game even, and just saying hey, I need a break. Can we talk for a second? If you see that the game is going in a direction that you're this is making me a little uncomfortable, being able to have that conversation when it happens so that you don't, you're not crossing that line and putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation right from the get-go. And then also reading the table and noticing hey, this person's gotten really quiet since we started this, whatever it is. Maybe they need to take a break, or maybe they need to step away for a few minutes, and they just don't feel comfortable saying that because they don't want to be that person. But
I actually haven't had the opportunity to run many session 0 since I became aware of the concept of safety tools. But the last game that I ran, which was the Quiet Year game that I streamed on my channel, and I made the mistake of not doing a session where we talked about safety tools. Our whole session 0 was not really a single session. It was a lot of asynchronous conversation over a period of weeks, where we talked about what kind of game we wanted to play and all this other stuff, and how are we going to accommodate each other's chronic illness and those sorts of things. I will say, however, that I've never met two people in my life that I felt so comfortable around and being able to just talk about these kinds of things. So even midway, when I realized, why didn't I do safety tools with these people? I thought to myself, but I also know that I can talk to if something comes up, I can say to these people, look, I think this is a veil for me, guys. We were all generally aware of what the safety tools were in the first place, and I cultivated with these folks an atmosphere of inclusion and welcoming diversity and anything that they brought to the table that they should have felt comfortable with. And we've had conversations about it since, where we just feel so comfortable with each other. And what we can say and do. So in that sense, it was maybe okay. I still regret not doing the safety tools conversation with them and actually getting a list from them of stuff that they had already thought about.
I think one thing for me also, since I DM a lot for streams, one of the points that I always try to make exactly in that comfort vein is in-game session tools. We use either a variant of the X card system or something like it, but I always try to stress to my players, and I think it's a really important thing for GMs generally, we've tried really hard, but if something comes up, just tell me. Someone else tell me. Let me know. I do not care. I am perfectly fine with, we get 5 minutes into stream, something bad happens, we're stopping the stream. Players' health and safety comes first. My health and safety also falls in that. The people at the table are more important than hitting your programming, hitting a session, etc. I'm like, I'll stop this for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, the night. Just tell me.
I will say that it's. I know what it likes to feel like you're that person. That I think, however, using that as a barrier, putting that barrier in front of yourself, is enabling the difficulty that we have with having these conversations. That I think, from my point of view and in my experience, I think you need to be that person in order to be more inclusive and accommodating to the people around you. I think the most powerful way that we can help other people to be more comfortable to draw boundaries around each other is by drawing your own.
Yep.
Yeah, we're all there to have a good time.
Right.
So we need to help each other to make sure we all have a good time.
Yeah, and it's simple as saying, "Hey, these are what my veils are." What if your DM doesn't bring up safety tools, and you feel like you need to, which you should feel like you need to, you just say, "Hey, these are some of my veils. What are yours?"
And there are still some players out there, and DMs as well, who don't necessarily know even what that means, because they've been playing for so long. Like, the concept of safety tools is a relatively new thing. So, it's okay to even have that conversation with your group and say, like, hey, just in case you haven't heard of this, here's this great toolkit, or, whatever it may be. Yep. So.
Yeah, it's not even a hard thing to add. I mean, back in the day, there was no session 0. It was like your character creation was your session 0. You'd all get together, make your characters, and the DM would go over, this is what the game is going to be about. What do you want more of? What do you want less of? So it's not hard to just add some more to that. Hey, what are you comfortable with? What are you uncomfortable with?
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to see less of? What do you want to see more of? What's on topic, off topic?
And you don't. I mean, you don't even have to really work with like very specific tools either. You don't have to like buy a specific set of safety tools. Just you need to cover what kind of stuff can we touch on, and then move past. And need to move past what kind of stuff can't we touch on at all. What do I need to do to get the message to the DM and to the rest of the party across without like derailing the whole game? That either we need to brush past this or we need to stop. And those are basically the things that you really need to cover. I mean, there's definitely a lot more nuance in that than it sounds like, but I think as long as your session 0, your safety conversation covers those, I think you'll be good.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier with finding a good group. If you have a good group of friends that you game with, then you all pretty much know what page each other are on. Whereas if you go to Reddit or wherever to find a group, you're kind of just rolling the dice as to who's going to be in your party or who's going to be at your table.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I just dropped in chat too, for anybody who's interested and hasn't seen the TTRPG Safety Toolkit. It's free to download. It's in a Google Drive that anybody has access to, and it's got PDF copies and stuff in there. It's a great little resource for like how to have that conversation and things to think about and that sort of thing.
Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Yeah. There's another list out there that's I think it's called something about like the consent. It's more of a consent-based list than a safety
I've seen that too. Yep.
And that one's good just for bringing into your session as the DM or the facilitator or whatever, and saying, let's talk about these things on this list, just so we cover everything, because not everybody can think of what all their lines and veils are.
Right.
Yeah, Monty Cook Gaming released a consent in tabletop RPGs, and that's what we use as a template. And one of the nice things on that is it also has a bunch of customizable fields in its PDF. It's free to download, so that if I know I'm running a horror campaign, it's like, hey, there's body horror in this.
Yeah.
Are you okay? And I like using that, because one of the things I will do is try to talk with players, because feeling safe around that process is really important. Of like, look, I'm going to build a master one anonymously, so it just takes the most shut off, the most lined, to the most veiled of anyone that is at the table. We'll talk about that, and if anyone feels comfortable and needs a bigger discussion, we can have that. And if you're comfortable being open about that, otherwise, let's talk to me. We'll figure it out.
I
Good old
think
Monty
that's
Cook.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that every new game now should have somewhere in their book, is a list of the game's inherent problematic spaces, whatever those might be. If the guys who do Spire and Heart, in their book on Heart, they talk about body horror and stuff like that. Even playing The Quiet Year. And the newer version of The Quiet Year, Avery Alder talks about how she acknowledges that the game is inherently colonial, and that how that can be problematic. I think that's really important moving forward.
Yeah, one of the things that I really enjoy doing is making. We talked about it, and I think you had a really, really great point, Tempest. It doesn't have to be big and difficult. It's really just like, hey, before we get started, what's in, what's out. This is sort of the shape of the game generally. Inside the game, just let me know if something is going bad. But I also like to, I had seen it on a Reddit a long time ago, but a tool afterwards for after the game is I like to go around and ask my players, what's something you did that you're proud of? Just enjoy it, lean into that. What's a moment that you did that you really enjoyed, and getting to watch people share those things. And then everyone's being like, oh, I loved it when you did that. And then this, because that's a really nice compliment to the care of also, was there anything that we needed to talk about? But also, hey, what's a thing everybody's proud of?
That actually brings me to a point. It's not session 0 specific, but it is sort of these types of conversations related, is making time at the end of your games to talk about how the game went. I think is not just great for trying to have the best game that you can possibly have with the players you have at hand, but also for talking about those moments that might have been slightly uncomfortable for you, where you were thinking, oh, I nearly pulled the veil there over that, but we did all right with it, etc. Those are great things. I know a couple of people who do those, and it's on stream, and it's amazing to watch. It's so impressive.
It's such a great idea.
One thing I just want to point out too is that things like lines and veils don't even necessarily have to be things that are traumatic in the sense that we think of them, but like, I'm arachnophobic. I don't like dealing with spiders. I don't like the idea of spiders. I don't want to play spiders. So, it'll be funny because Bat Duck is laughing hysterically because this is a known thing. And so, like, there will be some games that, or like, Bat Duck and I watch anime together pretty regularly during the week. And, he'll be like, there's spiders in this. Are you going to be okay? And it's like, okay, like that animation style I can handle, but if it's like super realistic, I get a little freaked out. So yeah. Yeah, and Katie Machen says spooters. Spooters are okay. Spooters are a whole different story.
That actually reminds me, how do other people feel about how public your lines and veils are to the rest of the group?
I'm kind of weird about it because I have a lot of anxiety about talking about myself, even though I'm on the show. But this is coming out of my comfort zone. And I try to practice being open. And so definitely, I feel like initially it would be hard. I've actually taken questionnaires before participating in one-shots that talk about the veils. And I'm like, I don't know. I always lack the self-confidence, and I feel like that I might be judged, which is stupid. I know that that's not true. But like you had mentioned before, which was such an important thing that you said about how embracing that will normalize it. And that is like, honestly, that statement really blew my mind, and really, even beyond the conversation you were using it in, it can apply to this as well for me.
Yeah. No, I'll let someone else answer before I say my piece.
I think I would sort of echo a lot of that, of both DMing and playing. I try to be like, yeah, this is hard for me, or it doesn't have to be this is traumatic. Again, I think it was to Luna's point of just like, I am also arachnophobic. Can we not have perhaps the detailed 5-minute discussion of the giant spider coming closer to me, because I'm going to get a little freaked out? And also just like, hey, here's content that I don't personally enjoy, and that's okay. That's going to make it an uncomfortable space for me, because I've had so many players, as I've had the opportunity to play with more players in our community and in our stream, be like, oh, I feel really bad about how many things I marked down. And I'm like, you should feel free to mark down half again. I will send them mine. I'm like, look, I put a lot of things as yellow and red. Don't feel bad. Yeah. Do what you need to do for you. Yeah. I can run a game. It's fine.
Yeah. I had a DM for the first time recently ask us, like, do the questionnaire thing and then say he would keep it private so that we didn't have to share it with anybody. And I actually found it really perplexing. I think my assumption was always that this is something that we need to share openly. And after having thought about it for a while, I find the idea of hiding it from the rest of the players problematic. A, because how are they supposed to know when they're bringing up something that might be on your lists? And B, because like what you were talking about, Manda, saying these things out loud normalizes this conversation. And strangely, Word was saying in chat that they don't like to have their trauma like open for dissection at the table, and that is 100% understandable. And I will be the first person to say that I don't think that your lines and veils are things that we should be discussing in any capacity other than how we're going to use them in the game. Like, I don't think it's appropriate at all for people to question your trauma. I think that the point of that, those lists of those safety tools, is for us to go, okay, noted, I will change my behavior, and then leave it at that. But you can't have that conversation if you're hiding them. And it enables your own shame as well regarding them.
Yeah, you totally just said what I was thinking and kind of sitting on for a minute because I wanted to see what everybody else had to say. But I feel like if you're playing with a group of people who, you don't even have to be like best friends with them as long as you respect each other. And if you respect each other, they're not going to question, like, if I say this makes me uncomfortable, they shouldn't be saying why. You know, they should just say, okay, we'll move on. And then if I feel like sharing maybe after the session is over, like, hey, this is why that made me uncomfortable, or, you know, whatever else I have to say about it, then great. Like, that's on me to share at that point. But I don't think that anybody should feel that they have the right to call out why somebody feels uncomfortable about something. And I don't feel like anybody should feel like they have to share why that makes them uncomfortable. So that's...
Jason C. made a good point in chat that as a DM, you can basically tell your players as you're discussing your safety tools that they don't if they really don't want to talk about something, no one's going to make them talk about it. If the DM makes himself available to be that voice of those issues for you. So if there's something you don't want to bring up, then the DM can say, this is on our list of lines and veils, and they don't have to say whose it is, or they can say that it's theirs.
Yeah.
And it should still be accepted and not put anybody on the spot who doesn't want to be.
And that's very much the way that I do them, is because I use the Monty Cook checklist with modifications, and being able to then produce a sort of one of the reasons I produce that master list is for this is everyone at the table and we've moved it over. One, if people are less comfortable, it makes it easier for them to share, especially if they're feeling any guilt or shame around it. I can talk to them on the side. And two, it's kind of useful to have a single doc that we can look at and be like, remember this, instead of being like, wait, was that person, was it real? It's like, no. Here at the table, these are our subjects.
Yeah. I think also hearing other people's lines and veils, you shouldn't assume that they're about that person either. That might be something you want to consider when giving your own lines and veils, is nobody should be assuming that because you don't want to see children abused that you've experienced child abuse in your life.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna say, like, for me, hard red is pet abuse or is animal abuse in there. And it's like, it's not like I've worked in animal rescues or, had my pets be abused, but it's like, I don't want to partake in that. That's awful.
You can hurt people all you want, and I won't shed a tear. You give a dog the evil eye, and I'm bawling my eyes out.
I'm kind of a older school camp, and most of my gaming experiences have been with friends. So I guess those lines have already been, I don't know, predetermined, as because we hang out all the time.
Yeah.
But as someone coming from that, I guess, playgroup style to something where it's like, oh, I'm meeting friends of friends. Like when I played with Luna for the Death House 1/3 shot. I played a character that was based off of a anime character that wore a boar's mask, a boar's head as a mask. However, the temperament was very toned back to how I would have played it if he didn't have a boar's mask. I just thought the boar's mask thing was hilariously funny. But if it was with my friends, I would have totally tried to play up the temperament of the character that it was based on, which is he's very brash, he's very blunt and quite rude. But yeah, I mean, it's good to know coming into groups where you're almost strangers, virtual strangers, to like, oh, should I tone this back, or should I play a little more reserved, or can I go? How far can I go before, we start to see that line? So it's, I think having these discussions, especially in this day and age, especially if you don't know the person, makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, definitely.
I also think it's great when you can encourage it as, consent being a process, and that it's, I always also tell the players, like, this list is not have to be, this is you, like the platonic ideal of you, and in all situations, it's like, it could change. A lot of our lists changed when COVID hit. Like, okay, stuff is now really just too much for me that before I would have been like, yeah, sure, that's no problem. And it's like, yeah, just anything that encourages those conversations, even amongst friends, is, I think, the goal to keep everybody happy and safe.
Yeah.
I think that actually kind of ties into another question that we had. So RF Chaos had asked earlier before the break, how often do you discover things about yourself when GMing or playing in a game? And I can say that I personally have discovered stuff about myself while playing games that has caused me to have to leave games. Just because... not because of anything, like bad or wrong or whatever, but like, in this particular case, it was this sudden, like, oh my God, I'm playing 3 campaigns and I was doing this stream as well, the Tales from the Tavern stream. I was in 3 stream campaigns a week, 3 stream campaigns a week and doing this show. And it was like, oh, yep, I need to step back now. I just hit that wall. And so it had nothing to do with the character that I was playing or anybody that was involved in the stream. It was just like, that was how I found where my limit was, my personal limit. So yeah, it doesn't even have to be that, it doesn't have to be something that's character related.
For myself, I'm going back to one of the characters I alluded to in the beginning of the stream about kind of being an evil person. I think there's more than text chat, but I had a character in a Legend of the Five Rings game where he wasn't like a goody two shoe, and he probably danced on the line of, if I was a bad person, what would I do? And I was like, ooh, I really shouldn't be a bad person, because it would be bad. Like I probably would be in jail or dead if I was a bad person, because it wasn't a good thing. But it was kind of on that moral line of trying to get something done for like the good of the world, but it's kind of like the ends justify the means. Is that the phrase?
Yeah.
Yes, that's the phrase.
Yeah.
And he wasn't Scorpion. If you're familiar with the Legend of the Five Rings universe, he tended to be aligned with the faction of the Kolat. He wasn't that way in the story. He never aligned himself personally in the story, but he was a very much like he fought for the cause of the peasantry. Like he didn't like seeing the peasantry abused and all that kind of stuff. So and in that line, because he was not of the samurai caste, he didn't have to abide by the laws of honor and everything like that they had to. So he could do other things that normally you as a character wouldn't be able to do because you were of a samurai caste. Questionable things.
Yeah, for me, I was younger. I was kind of like the stereotypical high school nerd. I was quiet, reserved, like the old school, what you would picture a D&D player as being. That was me. So when I finally played my halfling Zorro, Tommy, that was me branching out into being loud, boisterous, attempting to be charming, and kind of made me into who I am today as being loud, boisterous, and charming.
That's awesome. I actually am kind of like similar in that way. Like I historically have not had a lot of confidence or always been super social. And so I just keep trying to push out of my comfort zone with TTRPGs, especially the ones like the live shows. And I just keep like surprising myself like, oh, okay, I can do this. Like I can be witty, or I can, you know, do this, and this. I don't know. I could think about a bunch of different things, but it's built my confidence up a lot, and both for DMing and for playing, which is why I just started DMing like 6 months ago, but I've been playing TTRPGs for 10 years because I was like, I'll never be good. And then someone was like, just try it. And every session I'm like, I sit back and afterwards and I'm like, I handled that curveball really well. Like, I'm really proud of myself. And it just gives me like this really nice sense of pride that I don't feel like I always found through other things when I was growing up.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can guess what I'm going to say. I discover stuff about myself every 5 minutes. The way that I play, I do it intentionally, to be honest. So,
Yeah, I'd say similarly. I love running up against that. Like, oh, wow, this character would react that way. And weirdly, it's often that, right? It's like, this character would react that way. I wouldn't. Huh, what is that? Huh, okay.
Yeah.
So I just got into a discussion on Facebook with I was responding to a group conversation, like a Facebook group post, and it sparked a conversation of that whole discussion of it's what my character would do. And it's such, like, to me it's such a double-edged sword, because there's the side that people use it to encourage and explain away asshole type behavior, and then there's the side of it where, and this is how I use it when I do use it, is this is not how I would respond, but this is in character for my character, the way that, as long as it's consistent with how I've played them all along, then yes, it's what my character would do.
I think the thing you have to understand is when your character is doing things that they would do, it's a choice that you made as the player to have them be the type of character that would do that thing. So if that thing is causing problems for not really the characters, if it's causing problems for the players, then you've done something wrong and you need to adjust your behavior.
Yeah.
And it's when people don't recognize that they made a choice that is harming their other players is when that becomes a problem.
Yeah. 100%.
I saw a great response in a thread like that. I think it was on Facebook or Reddit, where, you know, someone said, like, your character's being an asshole. Well, that's what my character, that's how they act. Okay, well, how about you make a new character who's not an asshole and gets along with the party?
Yeah, I was gonna say one of the best clapbacks I ever seen to that was, okay, perhaps make a better character to play with at a table, because again, and I really like the line that you drew there, Tempest, of it's fine if it complicates it for the other characters. Right. Great, a situation's harder. Oh, we're scattered for combat. Blah blah blah. Yeah. You are causing a human, like a living human being, pain or anxiety. Bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've run into this, and I'm actually dealing with another player right now who's having trouble recognizing that his own choices. And I don't know how it's going to turn out yet. And the hard part was that this is someone I've been playing with for years, and I've run into this issue. And it sucks, and I'm hoping it works out for the better. But so far, discourse with this person has not gone positively. But I actually had trouble with me being the person who was being accused of being the asshole who was saying that they were just doing what their character would do. And the situation was that I was a brand new player. This is when I first started playing. And the the behavior that was labeled problematic was me running off from the party to do some scouting because I was playing a scouting rogue. And the DM didn't have a lot of time, very busy person, didn't like the wrench in the works that me going off on my own to like check out the area was putting in for him, into the game for him. So in that situation, in hindsight, I would say, just talk to the person and be like, hey, look, this is not something I can handle. Can we maybe take a different tack? And I would have been like, oh, heck yeah. Okay, fine. I didn't know that this was bad behavior. I mean, it just mechanically even, it seemed like a thing that the character would do. It seemed like it was written into the game, which, I mean, it is. So, I mean, looking back, I shouldn't have been treated that way as the person who was being labeled as the problem player. But that whole game was messed up. I had a really bad experience with that and ended up half being kicked out of the game, half leaving on my own because I got into a surprisingly weird, terrible argument with the DM and was like, this isn't going to work itself out.
Yeah, I think this goes back to what I was saying about how I played a character that tied up another character above a fire trap. And, that was kind of a jerk thing to do. But I also knew that the rest of my table would know that I meant that as a joke. It was all about, yes, that was pretty characteristic of what my character would do at the time, because that was more or less how I'd been playing the character all along. And so, but they also knew that, me as Luna as a person, they would be like, yep, that's definitely something that she would come up with, and not really think anything of it, But I think, again, it goes back to what we were saying about, one, is it consistent with the character? And then two, like Batduck was saying, knowing the group of people that you're playing with. If it's a really good group of friends and they know that you're not intentionally trying to be a jerk to the other person at the table, it's it's a whole different ballgame.
I mean, to be honest, this is a good topic for session zeros.
Yeah,
is what kind of character behavior is the kind of behavior that we like to see in our games. Do you mind if another character makes your character's life hard? One of my veils is interpersonal conflict, and I don't even really consider it a veil. It's sort of like whatever level is between that and perfectly fine. It's more of, it depends on what my mood is. Maybe something bothered me earlier that day and I'm in a bad mood. I'm feeling very sensitive. And if our characters aren't getting along, or maybe it's a phrase that someone used that triggered me specifically, I just let everybody know that there aren't any specific limits on this, but maybe there might come a day where it's just the bad combination of things. And I have to say, okay, we need to move on from this. I can't handle it, or I need to leave. Sometimes it's that quick. But you need to talk about these things early on. Can we handle arguments within the party? Are we going to play underdogs who screw everything up? Or do we all need to play heroes?
Yeah.
I also think one of the things we've run into is it can be really good when you have those intense moments, those intense arguments, especially between characters, drawing the line between the player and the character. Even to the degree of just above the table, love you, man. This character's about to be an ass to you. Sorry.
Yeah.
Love you. This is not personal. I am not upset with you.
Yeah.
And is that okay? And, as part of that consent process of just making sure and clearing the air, because occasionally we've had things where it's wait, is that you, or is that character, or is that both? And we can have a conversation wherever it is. I was like, oh, no. We had something where one of our rogues stole something, And my character was just like, oh God, why are you doing this? Blah, blah, blah. And the player playing the rogue was kind of like, oh, sorry. I'm like, oh no, me? Galway? Above the table? Absolutely the right call. My character is just like, Jesus, why have you done this to us?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had a character where, again, friends at the table, but our characters were always at odds with each other. We're always arguing. Not really fighting each other, but we're always arguing. So he was like a dwarf warrior. I was some sort of cleric. I forgot which race. And he was yelling at me to heal him. So I said, okay, here's the heal. Cast Cure Light Wounds. Oh, it's a touch spell, right? So I'd sock him with the spell, like punch him. it's a touch spell.
Doesn't
Cure
say
Light
how.
Wounds.
Oh, I love it.
and I've also been known to cast create food on top of him, so he gets buried in a 5x5x5 cube of tofu.
Oh, that's good.
We've determined that it's tofu, by the way, because create food.
Right?
No, it's regular bland tofu because it's the description of create food is tasteless but nutritious. Yeah.
I was thinking the stinky, messy angle.
No. We can't do that. We've done other things after casting the tofu. It goes to one of Floop's questions later on down the line where I responded with color spray. So I casted the tofu on him because this started becoming a normal thing, and then one of our mages would cast color spray on the tofu, so he'd be covered in various rainbow tofu, walking around or trying to get out of it. But he had
I
food.
love it so much.
So in one of my parties, we had a druid who very much enjoyed, because they were an elf, so they only needed to meditate. They would just creep into everybody's tents while they were still sleeping, and they were taking watch, and just druid craft skunk smell. So it just became a regular thing of, okay, whose rest is getting interrupted? But God, why are you? Fine. Crawl out to outside.
Yeah, I listened to the Dice Populi podcast, and I'm still playing catch up, so I'm 10 episodes back now from where they're currently at. And a week or so ago, maybe a little more, I was listening to an episode where two of the characters figured out that they could druid craft a skunk smell, and so they literally I was dying laughing because you knew that they found this hysterical, but they were literally shooting fart smells and skunk smells and stuff at each other half the episode.
When the druid discovers that druidcraft can be used for skunk smell is usually a dangerous day for the party or a dangerous night.
Oh gosh. All right. I think we can sneak in this one last question. Floop and Jason C. Art, I see your questions. We're not going to have time to get to two of them because they're a little bit more in depth, and we're going to run out of time before we really give a chance to answer them. So what I'm going to do with those is tomorrow I will post them on Twitter, and anybody who wants to answer them can answer them. But this is a good, fairly short one. Floop asked, what is, and this is the one that Batek was referencing, favorite wizard or spellcaster spell?
Ooh. In any game or any system?
He didn't specify, so I would say yes.
I'm going to say one that I really, really love. I don't know if I have an exact favorite, but in 5th edition, I really love Spiritual Weapon. Like a cleric from the cleric spell list. I don't know, or maybe paladins can have it too, but I know at least clerics have it. And I love it. I think it's compared to, it's in Pathfinder too, which I actually just got a wand of for my character. But in 5e, being able to control it as a bonus action, I don't know, that's pretty awesome. And you can't do anything with it or kill it or you attack it. I don't know. I love it.
I actually have been doomed to play a rogue for the rest of my life because nobody ever seems to want to play the utility characters. But I've been trying lately, and I've got a druid, and I've got a Pathfinder 2e witch. And I think my favorite spells are the semi-useless illusion ones, like Druidcraft. I absolutely love that spell to death. I use it constantly. And on my witch, they're an occult witch, and I used ghost sound to really good effect recently. I was really proud of myself for that. Totally threw the GM off. They were like, "What? You did? Oh, okay. It makes sense that works. I was not expecting that. Okay." Moving on from this 15 minutes of content I had planned.
I think falling in that, I love thaumaturgy as a cantrip.
Yeah.
That's Charity, the healer that I play in the long form campaign, is Divine Soul Sorcerer. So just having and is a tiefling, and just having that, just the sheer amount of flavor you can put in things of like, all the windows just blew open because I'm mad. Or, hey, all the flames, they're purple now. I'm making weird stuff happen. I love thaumaturgy for that kind of flavor. And if you've got a DM who's into that, you can use it to some really great effects.
I have to look up the name of mine, so.
My favorite has always been, since it was created, was Polypurpose Panacea from Pathfinder. It's a low level, it's a first level spell. It creates cantrip effects that relate to your health, such as hallucination, where you have pleasant hallucinations for an hour, such as wandering lights, music, and playful, surreal animals. Or intoxication, where you feel intoxicated, but you suffer no negative effects afterwards. Lucid dreaming. It's just like a funny cantripy sort of spell that has multiple purposes, similar to like prestidigitation, where you can use it for a lot of different things and not get shoehorned into one thing. Plus, who doesn't want to have, hallucinations all day long?
Okay, while Luna's looking up hers.
Yeah, go for it.
So I already mentioned create food and color spray, so I'll do a different one. There's a campaign where the DM was trying to effectively kill us, and in this instance, it was against a large group of very small creatures, like kobolds, or I think kobolds, imps, kind of that kind of thing. And I happened to play, lo and behold, another elf, this time a druid, and the spell that I happened to have in my back pocket was Untangling Roots. And they were in a clearing, and the whole party, it was a party of elves with bows, with Untangling Roots on a group of enemies in the center of a clearing. So it was... He did not like us. Safe to say.
I was going to say, probably understandably so, yeah.
And yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Luna.
I was going to say, so mine actually comes from the Quest RPG, for anybody who's played that at all. And it's a spell called Phantom Menace. No, not like Star Wars. But the description of it says, you read the mind of a nearby NPC and produce an illusion of a creature they find extremely irritating. Only you and the target of the spell can see and hear the illusion. For the next 10 minutes, the illusion relentlessly mocks and taunts your targets, provoking their full attention. You may control the illusion directly and have it manipulate small objects. For example, you can have it steal an item from the target and lead them on a chase. So, yeah. I got to use that one one time. I was playing a one-shot using that system, and I somehow, I don't know how I remembered that, like, this was something that I should do, but I conjured an illusion of the NPC's father, and it was actually kind of sad, but it worked really well.
Don't give me that spell.
An ability, not necessarily a spell, and I haven't played it, but our group that streams Spire did. In Spire, there's one of the play sheets that has the ability Man with Gun. You simply summon a man with a gun into the scene.
Okay.
And I'm just like, they're not necessarily friendly to you. They are. It's just like, I love the sheer randomness of, like, you know what this needs? An armed individual. Yeah, let's just
makes sense to me.
Why not?
Yeah. I think
need
my
a distraction.
favorite thing to do with with any spell or ability is to use it in an unexpected way.
Yeah.
I think because I have a really hard time with memorization, I think that I make up for that with spells that like speak to me narratively
Yeah.
and have like unexpected results. And I find ways to make them work where, you know, I'm not using the spell that is, you know, agreed on the internet to be the spell that you should have when you play a druid kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, don't listen to Reddit.
Yeah, follow your heart and your narrative. I love that.
And that's a really good note for us to end on. So we are just about out of time. So what I'm going to have everybody do is just go around again and remind us of who you are and where we can find you on the interwebs. And we're going to go in reverse order. So Tempest, we're going to start with you.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing. Jim the Dim says the message spell, but a butt dial. That sounds amazing to me.
Jim coming in with the clutch save at the end.
Yeah, amazing. Yes. Okay. Hi, I'm Morgan, aka Tempest. I stream live world building and board game and TTRPG design content, and now live plays of indie games on my channel, Tempest Games. That's Tempest TT Games on Twitch. I'm also the same on Twitter. Yeah, it was really nice to be here. It was really great conversations.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for coming to hang out, and thank you. I didn't realize you were in the UK. Thank you for staying up so late.
Yeah.
You know what? My partner works from home for a company based in San Francisco, so I am generally always up this late. This is about around the time I think
This is normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you again, and you know, I definitely hope to engage with you more, like on social media, and catch some of your streams.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Thank you.
yeah. All right, and Galway, over to you next.
Hey everybody, I'm Galway. I'm programming director, DM, and also a player for Helpful Goat Gaming. We're an independent game design and game content creation community. You can catch us on Twitch, twitch.tv/helpfulgoat. We're at Helpful Goat on most socials, and just look for Helpful Goat Gaming on YouTube for archives. We also do a couple of podcasts. If you enjoy very sort of story and roleplay heavy TTRPGs, that's what we tend to specialize in. We stream multiple times a week. And also, just to echo what Tim said, absolutely love the conversation. Great getting to meet everybody, and I'm so glad I was able to take part.
Yeah, me too. Well, thank you also for coming to hang out, and it was great to have you on. Orc, let's go to you.
Hello, goodbye. I'm Orc. You can catch me on Twitter or Twitch at Orc from Mork. And there's links on my Twitter for my World Anvil and my wife's Etsy page, since she makes cute things. But other than that, I just kind of troll around Twitter and answer questions and try and bring people together and be as positive as possible when there's so much negativity floating around the internet. So if you have any questions or you want to check out what I'm working on, just swing on by my Twitter.
Can I just say, I love how much you brag on your wife on your Twitter.
Oh, well, she's amazing, so someone has to do it.
It's great. Well, Orc, I'm super glad that, I finally, like I said, got to put a face to the name and got to have you come on. And, it's nice to actually get to have you in this seat for a change. So thank you so much for coming to hang out tonight.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Amanda.
Hi, you can find me right here, actually, on Shared Experience, doing random stuff, but every Wednesday, we have our 50 Shades of Crimson Pathfinder First Edition show, and I'm on there. Our gamer mom Luna is on there. We're actually on a little bit of a hiatus right now because we are between seasons, but it's only max. It's going to be like 2 or 3 weeks, but hopefully maybe only just 1 week. But yeah, that's where you can find me consistently every week. And then if you want to follow me on Twitter at MandaMandaYay, I post like other interesting things that I do. I guess maybe they're interesting. I think they're interesting, but yeah, I'm interested in just getting to know more people in the community, and it's been such a pleasure to get to be here with you guys and meet you guys. And I like switching it up where I'm not role playing, where I'm actually just hanging out like normal.
Yeah. Good times. Well, I'm glad. So Amanda was so cute when she actually filled out the form that I have to come on the show. And so I shot her a message and I was like, "Hi, I'd like to schedule you for coming on Tales from the Tavern." It was very fun. We had a fun little time with it. So Bat Duck.
Hi, I'm Batduck TW. I have a Twitch? Yeah, it's Twitch. I have a Twitch channel somewhere of the same name. I do variety games and stuff, mainly MechWarrior online. And I have a Twitter somewhere. And that Twitter is, you may have seen him in the chat, but OldBob10025, I'm blaming you for making me get that Twitter. And on the side, I also will be re-listening to this whole stream and doing the podcast for them. Clipping up the audio and everything like that, making sure all the things are good.
Yes. And I super appreciate that you're willing to do that for me every week. I really do.
Yep.
There's old Bob.
Yeah, there's old Bob. It's all his fault.
Well, thank you guys all so much for coming to hang out. And I really think this was an awesome conversation. I'm glad we got to talk about the safety toolkit and the consent toolkit. I did drop links for the chat, for those in chat. I will go back and grab those to drop them in our Discord as well for anybody who missed them and would like them again. And I will also probably shoot them out on social media on Twitter as well. So, they can always, it's always a good reminder to have those out and about. So this is Tales from the Tavern. You can catch us every Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. And we are here pretty much every week. We won't be taking a break again until probably May. So we're going to do that. And then Tuesday nights, you can catch Ripples in the Gray, which I believe has a new cast member joining them this week. So if you missed that, there is a clipped video of the reveal of our new cast member. It's somebody who's been on Tales from the Tavern numerous times and has offered giveaways a couple of times as well. So definitely check that out. We're really excited to add her to the family. And Wednesday nights, like Amanda said, we have 50 Shades of Crimson. That's on a bit of a break right now, but that's also at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Yeah, be on the lookout for other stuff coming up. I'm sure, I know we've got a lot of stuff, going on, things in the works and all kinds of fun stuff. So we're actually going to go raid. So there's a few people in chat who know how much I love the Dragon Age games. Mike Laidlaw is now streaming, and he's playing Crusader Kings 3. So we're going to go raid Mike Laidlaw and see if he will say hi to us. So I'm going to get that going. And
we got a raid call in the chat, too, if you're interested, for subs and non-subs.
Mm-hmm. Come on. My channel is being weird. There we go. Oh, helps if I spell his name right.
I just want to ask Bat Duck, is there a problem with, do you have a problem with Dragon Age?
No problem. It's just Luna talks about it at least once a week.
No, it should. You should. They're amazing games.
They are very good games. Well, again, thank you all so much. Yeah. Well, thank you all so much. And we will catch you all next Sunday right here on Tales from the Tavern. Have a wonderful evening.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.